My landlord installed a hidden door to my apartment and used it. I live in a small studio apartment in a really old building in Chicago. Nothing fancy, it's cheap, drafty in the winter and the floors slope a little, but hey, it's mine. About 2 months after moving in, I started noticing weird things. At first it was small, like food missing from the fridge. Not a ton, just little things I second-guessed myself on. A yogurt here, a slice of bread. I figured maybe I was just being forgetful. But then it escalated. I'd come home from work and feel like something was off. Like things weren't exactly where I left them. My towel was damp once when I was sure I hadn't showered that day. My toothbrush felt wet. One time, I came back from a weekend trip and found the living room window unlocked. I always lock my windows. Always. I asked the landlord if maintenance had come in for anything. He said no, kind of brushed me off. But his reaction was weird, like he was trying to change the subject. That's when I started getting paranoid. I bought one of those cheap indoor cameras off Amazon. Not to spy, just to feel better. I put it on a shelf facing the main room. Left for work the next day like normal. When I came home that night, nothing seemed off, until I checked the footage. At 1:14 p.m., while I was at work, I saw something that made my stomach drop. A man, middle-aged, wearing gloves. My landlord. He unlocked my door, stepped in casually, and started walking around my place like he owned it. He didn't touch anything, just looked. Went into my bathroom, looked inside my closet, stood by my bed for a few minutes, then left. I immediately called the police, but when they came, there was a problem. No sign of forced entry. And when I showed them the footage, they said, unless I had a sign posted that the unit was under surveillance, it might not hold up. Plus, the landlord owns the building. Technically, he can enter with notice. But here's where it gets worse. That night, I did a full sweep of my apartment. I was looking for anything. Hidden cameras, listening devices, anything. I tapped on the walls. I checked under every piece of furniture. In the back of my closet, behind some old paint cans, I noticed something strange, a seam in the wall. It wasn't drywall, it was a hidden door. I pressed against it, and it opened. There was a narrow passage, barely wide enough for a person to slip through, and it led directly to the crawl space behind the walls. There were scuff marks on the floor. Footprints. The crawl space led all the way to the basement of the building. I didn't sleep that night. I packed a bag, stayed with a friend. The next morning, I went to the building office to confront the landlord, but he was gone. Office cleared out. Number disconnected, just vanished. I moved out that week. A month later, I got a letter from a former tenant. She somehow found me online, said she'd lived in that unit 2 years ago, and the exact same thing happened to her. But no one believed her, and she had no proof. To this day, no one's been able to track him down. No arrest, no charges, just vanished. But sometimes I wonder, how many apartments had doors like mine, and how many tenants never noticed he was coming in until it was too late? I cheated on my wife with her sister, and now she's pregnant. I'm not proud of this. In fact, this might be the worst thing I've ever done, but I need to get it off my chest because I feel like I'm suffocating under the weight of it all. My wife and I have been together for nearly 10 years. She's smart, beautiful, funny, and has been my rock through some of the worst times in my life. We've had our ups and downs like any couple, but I always thought we were solid. Until about 8 months ago, when everything changed. Her sister, let's call her Claire, had always been around. We weren't close, but she was the cool aunt to our 2 kids and spent a lot of time at our house. She had recently gone through a rough breakup, and we offered her the guest room while she got back on her feet. My wife insisted on it. She said family sticks together. That's when the boundaries started to blur. At first it was little things, talking late into the night, sharing drinks while my wife was already in bed, venting to each other about life. I told myself it was innocent, that I was just being a good brother-in-law. But one night, things went too far. It was 2 a.m. Claire was crying over her ex. I was tipsy and emotionally drained, and one thing led to another. It wasn't passionate. It wasn't romantic. It was a mistake, a massive, life-ruining mistake. We agreed never to talk about it, ever. We swore it was a one-time thing. But of course it wasn't. The guilt ate me alive, but the more we tried to avoid each other, the more tension built. We slipped up again, and again, until it stopped feeling like a mistake and more like an affair. I hated myself for it, but I couldn't seem to stop. I started picking fights with my wife, coming home late, creating distance. She noticed, of course she did, but she chalked it up to stress. 3 weeks ago, Claire pulled me aside. She's pregnant. She says it's mine, and I believe her. She hasn't been seeing anyone else. The moment she told me, I felt the bottom drop out of my world. She wants to keep the baby. She's not pressuring me to leave my wife, but she says she's keeping it no matter what. I'm going to be a father again, to a child my wife will see as her niece or nephew. I'm living in a nightmare of my own creation. I haven't told my wife. Claire says she won't say anything, but I know this can't stay hidden forever. How do you explain something like this? How do you tell the woman you promised forever to, that you betrayed her in the worst possible way, that the baby she'll be buying onesies for might be mine? Every time I look at my kids, I feel sick. Every time I see my wife smile at me like everything's fine, I want to scream. I want to confess and beg for forgiveness, but I know I don't deserve it. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to fix any of this. Maybe I'm just venting into the void here, but if there's anyone out there who's ever been in a situation like this, how did you survive it? Part 2. I honestly didn't think it could get worse, but it did. Last time, I told you how I, 34 male, cheated on my wife, 32 female, with her younger sister Claire, 28 female, and that Claire is pregnant and says the baby is mine. I was living with the guilt, trying to keep it buried while pretending everything was normal. That bubble? Yeah, it just burst. And it's all because of my phone. I wasn't even being reckless. I've been extra careful ever since Claire told me she was pregnant. I deleted messages, no trace of anything. But I forgot one thing, the deleted folder. One night, I was in the shower. I left my phone on the sink. My wife, let's call her Lena, had been acting a little distant that day. I figured she was just tired. Turns out, she had already been suspicious. She thought I was cheating. She just didn't know with who. So while I was in the shower, she went through my phone. I didn't have any messages in my inbox, but she went into the deleted iMessages folder. Yeah, apparently you can recover those now. That's where she found the conversation between Claire and me. It wasn't explicit, but it was enough. Messages like, I still can't believe this happened. You can't tell Lena, not yet. I'll figure something out, I promise. She pieced it together. By the time I came out of the shower, she was sitting on the bed holding my phone. Face pale, eyes wide, absolutely shattered. She just said, Is it true? You and Claire? I didn't lie. I couldn't. I felt like a monster. She started screaming, crying, pushing me, asking questions I didn't know how to answer. How long? How could you do this to me? Why her? Out of everyone in the world, why my own sister? Then she asked the one question that broke me completely. Is the baby yours? I just looked down. I couldn't say anything. That silence told her everything she needed to know. She stormed out, drove off in the middle of the night, and didn't come back for hours. I sat there in our bedroom, trying to figure out what the hell I had just done to my life. Here's where it gets complicated. 2 days later, Claire called me. She had gone in for a paternity test, not because she doubted it was mine, but because Lena demanded proof if she was ever going to speak to her again. The results came back. I'm not the father. I was stunned. Turns out, Claire had a one-night stand a few weeks before we ever slept together. She thought the timing lined up, but she was wrong. So after everything, the guilt, the lying, the destruction of my marriage, the baby isn't even mine. But now Lena knows about the affair, about the betrayal, about everything. And a negative paternity test doesn't undo the fact that I slept with her sister multiple times. She's staying at her mom's house with our kids. We've talked once, and it was cold, businesslike. She said she doesn't know if she can ever look at me the same way again. Honestly, I don't blame her. Update: it's been about 3 months since everything blew up. For those who don't know, I, 34-year-old male, cheated on my wife, 32-year-old female, with her younger sister. And for a while, we thought the baby was mine. Turns out it wasn't. But that didn't change the fact that I betrayed my wife in the worst way imaginable. And now, the consequences have officially hit me. She filed for divorce. Lena didn't yell this time. She didn't cry. She just looked at me like a stranger and said, I can't do this anymore. I have to protect myself and the kids from you. She got a lawyer. She moved fast. And I didn't fight her. I couldn't. She ended up getting full custody of our two kids. I get to see them every other weekend, but I can tell, even they know something's changed. My daughter barely looks me in the eye. My son asked me if I was still in trouble with mommy. It crushed me. Lena refuses to speak to me unless it's about the kids. Claire, her sister, moved out and cut contact with both of us. Last I heard, she's keeping the baby, but she's moved to another state to start fresh. Probably for the best. Now I wake up in an empty apartment. No laughter, no goodnight hugs, just silence. All because I couldn't control myself. I destroyed my marriage. I broke my family. And the worst part? I can't take any of it back. I don't even know why I'm posting this. Maybe just to say, if you're in a relationship and you're tempted to cross that line, don't. It's not worth it. Not even close.